bourbon or bourbons and birds. Kind of depends on how you put your priorities. And my priorities mix between the two all the time. Um, I decided real quick I was going to throw a video together. Got a great gift from one of the viewers of my wife Nancy and Craig's channel. Steven sent me a great package, and again, thanks, big thanks, way above and beyond. And he sent me this EM Waltons out of North Carolina. And I mean, you can look it up yourself. It's a website. I should have brought the card up here. I could have put frame. Anyway, the website is www.waltonsdistillery.com. They're on Facebook and Instagram and everything. If you want to read the story, it sounds like it was set up by a good old boy gentleman. So I thought, I can't just set a gift like that and not try it out. I mean, how many times do you get a birthday present or something and you just go, oh, thanks, and you put it on a shelf and then you let them see it later on. It's like, if you get a t-shirt for your birthday or something, you put it on so they can see it and everything. Everybody can say, oh, yay. Oh, and by the way, I had to put the t-shirt on. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I can't wait. Next Tuesday when I go bourbon hunting, I'm gonna put this on, and it'd be great. I can go into my local places, and it gives me something to talk to them about, because it's just fun to talk to the owners and proprietors of some of these establishments and everything. And they almost always like to talk, not just liquor, but drinking and celebrating and everything in general. So I took a pour of that. The story on it, it's a single barrel. It's a bourbon, so it's aged a minimum of 2 years, called straight bourbon whiskey because of that. It's 90 proof. So I thought, man, I need to put it up against some others that I got and everything. So I grabbed a couple down. This is one of them, and I think in another video I said that Joe's a sucker for bottles, and my brother-in-law Rich knows that. He laughs at me all the time about that, but I'm a sucker for a good-looking bottle of bourbon. And this is Soldier Valley, and it's Soldier Valley Distillery, and it's sponsored by Lee Greenwood did this, and it had an LG metal little tag on it. So this is also 90 proof. I've had this for a little bit, and if you look at the bottle, it's shaped like an old World War II canteen that you'd see them and they'd be wiping the mud off them, taking a quick hit, and a lot of times I bet wish they had this instead of having water back then. And it's a great celebration of the greatest generation. Those guys that fought in World War II. That was they went through hell, and that was a special kind of man that was able to do that, and it turned boys into men within minutes when they were fighting and everything. And all appreciation to them. My dad was in the service. I was not, but I never gave my dad the praise that I probably should have. He was after the Korean War is when he was enlisted into the military, and he was in the Navy. And I would always ask my dad, what'd you do? And he'd say, well, it was kind of like I was a secretary. I did a lot of typing and everything. And as a kid, I didn't appreciate what he was telling me. And it just kind of bugged me. Oh, he just went in and all he did was type. Well, later on in life, I discover he tells me that he wasn't really that. He was working on a listening site in Guam, and he was actually helping to decode Soviet military transmissions and everything. So he was a Cold War code breaker, is what he was. And I'm like, wow, it would have been so nice to have known, but for years and years afterwards, he was sworn to secrecy and everything, because they would look for guys like that. They wanted to know, what they knew and how much were you able to break those codes. And so I can remember my dad getting a couple visits, and a couple guys in suits, and they just sat out on the porch for a little bit talking. Dad had come in, and, oh, it was nothing. You don't have to worry about it. And it's a shame you don't get those stories. I was able to talk with it, before he'd ever died, but I wished as a kid I would have gave him more respect for that. So kudos to the military. Tip your hat to them when you see them. But anyway, I got that Soldier Valley, and it's also a 90 proof. Did I just say VAT? I don't know, old man. And I thought I got to find something else to put them up against. So, what's everybody attribute to bourbons nowadays? It's not the rarest thing in the world, but it is almost as well known as the term bourbon itself. And that's your Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace happens to be a great go-to. And I tell people, if you can find this at retail, and it's not that much, it's under $30 at retail. This is a great, I repeat, this is a great starter whiskey. It's super smooth, and it's a great one to put it up against. It just comes out of, the same barrels. Some of this stuff match up with Pappy and all those. So it's a good one to put it up against. So I took a pour. Of course, I had to put it in the Waltons distillery cup. Put it in there. Since it's been cracked just brand new, I put it in a larger cup that I could swirl around and get a little bit more air into it and everything quicker and everything. So it's not a great comparison since I opened it up, but I thought, if it's great, it'll hold its own. So cheers to Stephen sending this on my way, and let me give it a shot. It's a newer bourbon. It's newer bourbons. They got a little bit more fire, but to somebody that drinks more bourbons, out of especially if it'd be even lower, like an 80 proof, you welcome some of that, a little bit of that heat. And this has a little bit of that. It's mostly vanillas that I get. I get just the slightest bit of a little bit of fruitiness, but not hardly at all. It's just mostly the vanilla. It's just like, it's what I call this is classic bourbon. This would be a good one. If you're down around in the area down in the south where this is at, and you're looking for a starter bottle, I wouldn't hesitate to pull the plug on that one. Sometimes I like to pull a little bit more air into my mouth and then take another little swallow. That's when, towards the back of your tongue, you start to get, and I do get a little peppery note off of it then. So yeah, that's a solid bourbon. Thanks again, Stephen. When Rich gets down here and we head out and get a little more casual, I'm sure we'll pop that again, and after it's had a little bit more out. And I'm not lying, I'm gonna pull a little bit more out of that bottle later on so I can get the neck a little more open to hold a little bit more air. So, okay, so while that's fresh, let me cleanse. Now I'm gonna try that Soldier Valley again. That's the one that's shaped like the canteen, sponsored by Lee Greenwood. I was a product of the late 70s, and all the 70s and the early 80s. So I was born more into Styx and Aerosmith and all those Foreigner, that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, a little story. When I actually got to drinking, and I'll just share this. This is before I was out of high school. Don't any kids, follow my wisdom. Don't do that. If you want to make your own bad choices. But a friend and I, we would go out. We'd get some beer, and my friend Rob, he was old enough. He could go in. He had a big black beard, twice as big as what I grow at any given time in high school. And so he was able, 3 or 4 different places could easily go in and buy beer. And we'd get some, and we'd go out and we'd find someplace good we could just sit and drink. And Rob was more into the country music and everything. So that's where I ended up with Oh, I got into Hank Williams Jr. and a little bit of Lee Greenwood actually, and John Anderson. It's just a swinging. Everybody remember that? Yeah. Oh yeah. John Anderson had such a unique twang, almost maybe a little Dwight Yoakam kinda. Only he's more Dwight Yoakam is a more Bakersfield sound, in which I really like that too because I grew up with my dad was a huge country music, so that's probably why I decided I'm too smart to be a country fan. So I listen to rock, but I have all of my dad's old Buck Owens albums. It's like 15 of them or something like that. And I got to where I really liked his music and everything. So anyway, there's a lot of ramble about country music when I haven't even tasted. Instantly, I can tell this is older. This is probably, I don't even know if I got an age statement. A lot of 90 proofs won't have an actual age statement. If they do, they'll just say they're over. The standard. It's a minimum of 2 years. Yeah, I don't actually see it, but I'm sure if you look, that's what Google's for. If you look it up, you could find out what it is. Yeah, it's still mostly vanillas. And if you non-bourbon drinkers, if you're just watching this just to see Dumb Old Joe just talk, if you want to know what I'm talking about when I say that it's just kind of vanilla, go find some pure vanilla extract and just tap your finger onto it. Get just the slightest bit of that and put that on your tongue. That's an experience. And that's that subtle flavor that you pull out of this. It isn't like vanilla ice cream kind of vanilla. It's a bitter vanilla. And I'm a bitter chocolate man. When I was a little kid, I used to sneak when my mom and dad would go to the grocery store. I'd climb up on top of the stove, get up into the cupboards up above, and I'd find mom's baking chocolate. Remember, anybody that's got any age on it was wrapped up in aluminum foil and in little bitty squares. And I'd sit and I'd look at that and figure out where could I pop one of those off that she wouldn't notice. And I'd snap one of them off, and it was really hard. I'd snap one of those bitter chocolate squares off, and I would eat that. And now to this day, I don't like as a rule milk chocolate. I like all the darker stuff. The higher cacao level, the better. I've had some 96% stuff that you break it and it like crumbles when you snap the bar, and that stuff is fabulous. And sometimes you get a little bit of chocolate flavor off of these too, a bitter chocolate. Now that is actually what I've talked about before. Since that bottle's been open for a while, that bottle's been open probably 8 months, and it's got a better taste to it. It's just weird how that works. I rarely find any that get worse with age after you've opened them up. But you put them on the clock. You really, after you open them like that, even with synthetic corks, that keep them closed, it's a long time, but I mean, you wouldn't want to hold one for more than like 4 or 5 years in my book, And in most cases, if you got a collection that's not a collection, it's a live animal. By that I mean it's just like me. It's alive, but it's dying every single day. It's dying a little bit, and your bourbon can kind of do that too. And you want your collection to be that way. You don't want a bottle to sit up there forever. You want it to slowly go down and then try something new go on that shelf. Or you do like Rich and I, you just keep expanding. I'm coming down my second set of shelves over around the corner here, and I'm three deep, and they're not all the same bottles. I've got a lot of stuff behind because one day my granddaughter got in here. I got a keypad lock on my door because this is like my bourbon vault. And I don't want them getting in here and getting themselves hurt. These big bottles are heavy. And if they'd break, I wouldn't give a care in the world about the bourbon. I just wouldn't want my little babies to get hurt. So that's why, I try to keep them out of here as much as I can now. And yeah, so I had to raise the bottles up off. I had 4 shelves deep, so now there's quite a few lesser ones hiding behind. So, okay, now I'm off to the Buffalo Trace. Oh man, I'm at 15 minutes already, so we're gonna have to wrap this up. Yeah, see, that's a little more complex. Now it's funny. It's actually drawing back a little sharper than with that Soldier Valley. But like I said, experienced bourbon drinkers, you kind of want that a little bit out of some of these lower proof whiskeys. It's weird to do this without Rich, because we drink together a lot, and it's fun. If you do it, I always say, don't drink alone. I know people that drink alone, and I know George Thorogood told you that he drinks alone. Yeah, all by himself. I drink alone with nobody else, and that's not good. I mean, you got to have somebody that's watching you, and you can watch them. Because Rich and I together, we've drank a little bit too much at times and everything. So now we do that, buddy up. And a good thing about that is when you've got somebody else with you, they'll help you remind you. Every other drink you ought to take a glass of water. And we've talked. Rich bought a couple glasses that say drink more water. So we try to drink a 16-ounce glass of water at least after every two pours that we do, and it helps. You're just not drinking just straight whiskey down onto your stomach that's going into your bloodstream. It dilutes it back down and goes in more like what beer or wine would. And it doesn't hit you near as hard. But you have to be diligent on it. You've got to keep on that water the entire time. And, a lot of hard liquor drinkers is, I drink that so I don't have to go to the bathroom all the time. Well, you're going to pay for that. Yeah, I'll catch up with you. Yeah, so, All right, okay. That Buffalo Trace that's a delicious bourbon. I mean, it wouldn't be as popular as it is today if it wasn't a really good bourbon. But I saved a little bit of that Waltons back. I just wanted to try that. And you can't really see it real good. There's like an old faded picture. I'm assuming it's Mr. Walton, sitting on it looks like a racing horse. It doesn't look like it's not a sunken down horse that you would have just trotted into town on. Everything, it looks like a legitimate steed. The Buffalo Trace beats it. I'd put it on the same par as that Soldier Valley. But it's a great whiskey, and I'll tell you what. Here's the thing about whiskeys. A lot of the whiskey is the lore, and this has a great story with it. To me, it's a nice tall bottle. Came with all the paraphernalia, and most of it's got that great story, and it's going to have a story for me for a long time. If I've got other friends come over and they say E.M. Waltons, never even heard of that. I've got not only the story of the bourbon, but I've got my own story that this was a gift somebody sent me, and all the other stuff that they sent me and how thoughtful that was. And they did. I think I had a little video of the stuff that Steven sent me. He sent me some moonshine in little little shot mason jars and everything. So I'll split them sometime with Rich. Neither one of us are big moonshine fans, but doesn't mean we can't have some. I got other stuff. I'm not just a total snob. I bought this the other day off a recommendation of a friend to make espresso martinis. So once it starts getting cooler out, I'm thinking I'm gonna use that, and I'm probably gonna I might melt down some candy bars. I don't know if you've ever done that before. You could take and you'd have to have another bottle because it ends up making a lot. But I'd probably save half of this, and then the other half I would melt down like your favorite candy bar. I did it one time. I did it with Snickers bars, or not Snickers bars, Milky Ways, and I melted them in a double boiler down. And then on a real low heat, I think it's 185. You can't get over. It starts to affect the alcohol. You just pour that alcohol in a little bit of time, and you stir it into that chocolate. And then once you get that all incorporated, you pour that back into the bottle, and then you let it and just kind of shake it gently every once in a while, and then you put it in your freezer, and then you take it out and you give it a good shake. It won't freeze because it's got all that vodka in it. You give it a good old shake and everything. You pour it out, and it's just like the creamiest, like it's almost like melted, like a melted malt or shake. But it's just such a complex taste with that vodka and everything. And I've done it a couple of times and loved it. And I think I'm going to try it with that because I love coffee too. Love coffee. And so I think that'll go great together since it's an espresso. Anyway, yeah. So of those three, I'd still say Buffalo Trace won that. I'd put the EM Waltons behind it, and then I'd bring up Lee Greenwood's Soldier Valley. So with that, I got one more swallow, and we're done for the day. I might have a little bit of bird stuff to toss onto the end there, and then we'll be gone. So thanks a lot. Appreciate you watching. If you want to subscribe, that's great. I'm just doing these for the fun of it. Just Nancy, fans of the other channel, said they wanted to see some more of this. So I'm more than happy to do it. I'm just a 60-year-old guy that has developed a taste for bourbon. I don't profess to be any kind of an expert on it, but what I am an expert of it is liking it. So, and I think that's more than what could be said for a lot of people, that they're just trying to make money off of it on YouTube. I don't care anything about that. I'm just here so I can be dumb and entertain you. So with that, I'm gonna take off. So peace. Here's another look at that great gift that Steven sent me. Sent that great t-shirt. It's got a great design on it. Classic old, almost like a moonshiner's type barn. And then he sent these little shooters of moonshine, different flavors, and then one single of just straight moonshine. If any of you are headed that way, there's a card he sent me. I'm glad he sent me that so we could pass on this information as well. And of course, there's the bottle. EM Waltons straight bourbon whiskey. It's a single barrel. A cool little flask. That's a nice one. And then this glass, it says EM Waltons on it. I can't really, well, maybe you can see it better that way. Yeah, it's that same logo from there is on that glass. And cool pin I can toss up in the office. Always losing pins. That's a little thicker. Maybe I won't lose that one. So thought I'd just kind of give everybody a shot of that, and we'll be trying some of these. Thanks a lot again. Hey, this is just a little snippet I thought I'd film. We've got Orioles in this area that we got like 3 mating pairs that we're just blessed with. And naturally none of them around because Joe's got his phone pointed at one of the feeders. But I got this feeder last year. It's got little grooves in it, and it's a real plain feeder. It's just almost like a little cup that somebody had made. I believe we got this maybe at a farmer's market or something. But I've got that, and then I've got the other kind like that, where it's got it's got a little jar in the middle, and the nice thing is it's got that clear lid or the roof over the top of it that keeps, as you can see, there is just, those birds land on top of this thing and they poop right on it. But that keeps them right out of it. Keeps the poop out of the food and keeps it nice and fresh for them. But of the two of these, you'd think that they would prefer this big one. But my Orioles just love this little thing. They had actually ate this thing completely out. And it holds a fair amount of jelly. But in 2 days, they had ate that thing completely out, and I had to add more of it today. And I think it's because it's just so open, easy for them to land on. They can land. I got these bird feeder holders off of Amazon with 2 arms that you can adjust, and they just love sitting there, and they can jump down in. I've got another. Look at this. This thing was completely full today, and it is just nothing but crumbs in there right now. But they jump up on top of all these holders, these shepherd hook type things. But does anybody, you see that right now? It's stinking hornet. Anybody got any idea how I can keep them things out of my jelly? They just recently have started getting into it, and it's getting a little cooler out, and I think I'm gonna flush him out and swat him with a badminton racket, because that's the best thing for those stinking hornets if they're around. You can swing them badminton rackets so fast. But if you know how to do that, hey, let me know. I'd really appreciate it, how to get rid of them stinking hornets like that.